Well, the budget preparations continue in their final phase now. Looking forward next week to bringing down a budget which will be focused on growth and jobs. A stronger new economy that's going to provide that plan that Australians know the country needs to ensure we move from the mining investment boom to a more diversified, stronger new economy. That's what the budget will be about, focused on those Australians who are really driving our economy through what is a very difficult time. I mean, globally things are difficult, Australians understand that, but they're out there making it happen every day, and the budget I'll hand down next week on behalf of the Turnbull Government will be all about backing them in to keep that growth going, to keep the jobs going. That's what they're looking for, and that is what they will get in the budget we hand down next week. Now, of course, this week there have also been some significant announcements, including today from the Prime Minister, which are also about jobs and growth. But the one I particularly wanted to mention was the significant investment in our defence capability. That decision is as much about our economic strength and our economic future as it is about our defence and keeping Australians safe. Our defence investments provide the opportunity for high-tech jobs over decades. This is a very significant economic investment for the country. And while, of course, it will be keenly felt in the shipyards of Adelaide and with the other defence procurement programs in Perth and other parts of the country, specifically in that industry, the flow-over effects of the supply chain domestically in this country are significant. And so, yes, it's a very important defence announcement, but from the Treasury point of view, it is a very critical part of our national plan to drive jobs and growth. Now, while the budget preparations continue, the work of Treasury more generally also continues, and there are significant matters we have to deal with. I'm going to read to you a prepared statement regarding my preliminary decision of foreign investment on the foreign investment application for the purchase of S. Kidman and Co Limited. I don't propose to take any questions specifically on this matter afterwards because of the nature of this process, and so I will confine my comments to what I say on these matters to what I've put in my statement. If you wish to address other matters after I've done that, then I'm happy to take any other questions. As part of my long and careful deliberations regarding the acquisition by foreign investors of S. Kidman and Co Limited, consistent with the formal process required, I have today informed the investor that my preliminary view of the proposal that has been put to me is contrary to the national interest. Australia welcomes foreign investment. However, we must be confident this investment is not contrary to the national interest. Australians must have confidence in how we regulate foreign investment and the decisions we make to ensure continued support for foreign investment that is critical to our economy in providing jobs and growth. And this is always a relevant consideration. On 15 April, I exercised my statutory discretion to extend the period in which I have to review this application. I did this in order to provide me with sufficient time to consider this complex case. Without this extension, I would have been required to have made a decision that week. This additional time has assisted me in forming my preliminary view, and I stress preliminary view. The Kidman land portfolio is the largest private land holding in Australia. The Kidman portfolio holds approximately 1.3% of Australia's total land area and 2.5% of Australia's agricultural land. Even after the excision of Anna Creek and the Peak properties, Kidman will still be Australia's largest private landowner and hold over 1% of Australia's total land area and 2% of Australia's agricultural land. Given the size and significance of the Kidman portfolio, I am concerned that the acquisition of an 80% interest in S. Kidman and Co Limited by Darkang Australia Holdings Limited, which I'll refer to as Darkang, may be contrary to the national interests. I have today made my concerns known to the applicant and provided them with a natural justice period in which they may respond and consider how they wish to proceed. The applicant shall have until Tuesday, 3 May, Budget Day 2016, to respond. I have concerns that the form in which the Kidman portfolio has been offered as a single aggregated asset has rendered it difficult for Australian bidders to be able to make a competitive bid. The size of the asset makes it difficult for any single Australian group to acquire the entire operation. On 20 April, I commissioned an external and independent review of the Kidman sale process, as announced here, to examine market integrity issues around the Kidman sale process so that I could be fully informed. The review, conducted by Professor Graham Samuel AC, was tasked with providing advice on whether the competitive bid process offered fair opportunity to Australian bidders to participate. The review contains sensitive commercial in confidence material, which precludes its release. While the review found the sale process followed a satisfactory commercial practice that offered opportunity to Australian parties to make an offer, the review also found there remained significant domestic interest in Kidman. I outlined my concerns in my announcement and decision on Kidman on 19 November of last year on the original application. I noted then that the size and significance of the total portfolio of Kidman properties in the proposed form as a single composite property asset was not in the national interest. I am not yet satisfied these concerns have been addressed by the revised proposal that has been submitted to me. The size and significance of the portfolio, combined with the impact the decision may have on broader Australian support for foreign investment in Australian agriculture, must also be taken into account in this case. The Turnbull government welcomes foreign investment where it is consistent with our national interests. However, we must always ensure it is on our own terms. There are not too many jurisdictions anywhere in the world where foreign acquisition of large holdings of this nature would be permitted. As Treasurer, I have approved many significant foreign investment proposals, and I consider each on its merits, as I have done on this occasion. Foreign investment has underpinned the development of our nation, and we must continue to attract the strong inflows of foreign capital that our economy requires. Without foreign capital and investment, Australia's output, employment and standard of living would all be lower. Foreign investment rules facilitate such investment while giving assurance to the community that the investment is being made in a way which ensures that Australia's national interest is protected. We will continue to welcome and support foreign investment that is not contrary to our national interest. Question?
Treasurer, you said...
Bill.
Just not on the detail of what you just announced, but the timing. We're expecting this after the election in July.
Well, what I just simply on the matter of process, the statutory extension period that I enacted would have, yes, taken it over that period, but I made no statement at that point about when I'd be making a further decision. That was just simply a 90-day period, and I've acted within that 90-day period at this stage. There is further stages in this process to go.
Treasurer, you said many times that you want the budget to be about promoting investment. How do you reconcile that, your attitude to foreign investment and turning down investment?
Well, you're making a number of assumptions about my statement, and I'll just have to refer you to my statement for the reasons I said to you before. I don't intend to compromise this process by adding to what I've already said on this matter.
Treasurer, who are the people you want to back in the budget?
Australians who are going out there and working hard every day, earning every day, running their businesses, building their businesses, growing their businesses, employing Australians every day. Those who are taking decisions, those who are taking risks, those who are putting themselves out there, those who are building the country, those who are making a contribution. That's a pretty long list.
Are PAYE employees risk takers?
Everyone who puts themselves out there every day to earn a dollar is taking a chance because they're backing themselves, and we're keen to back those who go out there and back themselves in this economy.
Treasurer, do you still believe there are excesses in the negative gearing area?
Negative gearing is used by over 1 million Australians to provide for their future. And as we look across the tax system and the way the tax system works, we need to ensure that it's sustainable for the future. And I'll be making some further announcements about that next week in the budget. And what I do know, though, is you must preserve the opportunity for Australians to try and get ahead. And the sorts of issues that you refer to, or enthusiasms, I've referred to them on other occasions, are very minimal, very small. And you don't want to do something that puts at risk the broader performance of the Australian property market. I think even those who are fans of changes to negative gearing know that Labor's proposal in its composition is confusing and would be disruptive to property markets and undermine the performance of those markets and thereby undermine the value of Australians' homes. And let me say this about Australians' homes. Labor's proposal undermines the value of the Australian home because of the impact the changes will have on the property market. Now, that's bad enough. That's bad enough. But in this economy, which has been so dependent and driven by householder confidence, I mean, it's been household consumption that was one of the key factors in the December quarter national accounts that I talked about here a little while back. You don't go and undermine confidence in the value of the family home and think that's not going to have an impact on householder confidence. That's why what Labor are proposing with their housing tax will only work against the interests of jobs and growth, and that's why we don't support it.
Treasurer, will the budget contain all the initiatives that the government intends to offer during the election, or will there be more to come after Tuesday's budget?
Well, you'll know the answer to that question by the time we get to the election and once the budget's handed down.
Treasurer, if there was to be an interest rate cut next week, market's about 50-50 on that question, what would you say to the banks on the issue of whether they pass all of that on?
Well, I don't speculate on what the Reserve Bank should or shouldn't do. I have the utmost of confidence and respect for the Reserve Bank Governor Glenn Stevens. I've said this on a number of occasions since being in this role and before. He is really in the pantheon of great Reserve Bank governors, and they always will have important decisions to make next Tuesday, as indeed the government has had to make important decisions for the budget we hand down next Tuesday. And I know what Glenn Stevens will do and the board will be in the national interest. That's what they've always done, and they need to make their decisions and their calls, and the government will make its decisions and its calls. Banks always need to make their decisions and their calls, and they need to face their customers. That's the whole point about this discussion we've been having about the banking and financial system, that the banks need to be customer focused, and they will have the opportunity every day in terms of how they address the needs of their customers. We've made announcements and decisions about the things the government is doing in this respect, particularly in relation to ASIC, but it is for the banks always to defend their decisions to their customers who keep them in business.
Treasurer,
Sorry.
this week's inflation figures were surprisingly low. Were you surprised just how low they were, and do you think it's pointing to weakness in the economy or some other factor going on?
Well, I'm not a commentator on this sort of stuff. I mean, these figures are as they are, and I'll leave it to others to make the interpretations. How they're interpreted and how they impact on the parameter estimates for the budget will be made clear next Tuesday. Though, you know, we've seen lots of movements in different indicators, whether it's been stock markets, oil prices, the TAPIS, iron ore prices, the world GDP forecast from the IMF. There's been a lot of moving parts over the last several months in particular. And you will see next Tuesday how they've all reconciled when it comes to what Treasury has put forward in their view about the Australian economy. But one thing I think all Australians know is this is a tough economy to be making our way in. But despite the fact that the economic performance of Australia is not evenly felt all around the country, and we all know that to be true. You represent media organisations from the tip of the Cape York to Tasmania and to the west, and it is not a consistent story across the country. But what is true is that as a country together, we are growing at a faster rate than the United Kingdom, the United States, Japan, Germany. We're growing as fast as South Korea. There were 300,000 jobs thereabouts created last year, the best we've seen since the Howard Costello years. And really importantly, 50,000, more than 50,000 indeed, jobs for young people in the last 18 months. Youth unemployment is now lower than it was at the last election. So there are things to be positive about, but Australians, I think, are very wary of the economic world in which they live. They're not intimidated by it. They understand it, I think, far better than most people give them credit for, because they're dealing with it every day. And we respect their understanding of that, and we'll be producing a budget which I think addresses the concerns and things that they believe need to be concerned in that plan that will be in our budget.
There are competing demands on the budget and on you personally on Tuesday. There is the need to reduce the deficit. There's the goal of reducing income tax burdens on workers. Which do you think takes the top priority there?
Well, my answers to those questions will be made very clear next Tuesday night. I thank all of you for your great wisdom and advice that you've been giving me on a daily basis over a long period of time. I'm like treasurers past in that respect, and we've all greatly appreciated the great wisdom that has come from the Canberra Press Gallery. And I'm sure I don't need to encourage you to keep providing that advice in the future. But the point you make, David, is right. When you set out a budget, as I will do next Tuesday, it is an economic plan. It's not a typical budget. This is not a typical time in which to be bringing down a budget. But the challenge is the same, to give Australians confidence that the government's plan to deliver jobs and growth will be right for them.
What is atypical about it?
Sorry?
What is not typical?
Well, budgets often, in different cycles, are a list of measures. That's not what this budget is. This is an economic plan for jobs and growth for a stronger new economy. This is the path that we're clearing so Australians can continue to make their way forward in this difficult global economy. And they are making the way. And I think that is to their credit. And so it's for the government to back them in this budget, which is what we'll be doing. Yeah, Mark.
Treasurer, could you just clear up an issue on tax avoidance? The Prime Minister this morning said that tax avoidance was legal if undesirable. Bill Shorten says that's giving his blessing to people to avoid tax. What is the status of tax
Well, let me give you Sam Dastyari has also given his version of events. He says, which he said on April 8, 2015, let us be clear about what the distinctions are in this. Tax avoidance is questionably moral behaviour. It is legal. Tax evasion is illegal behaviour. Now, that's Sam Dastyari. Now, I'm not going to get in the lawyers' picnics on this one. What I'm interested in, what Australians are interested in, what are the outcomes when it comes to multinational tax avoidance. And what I know is that last year we had a bill in the Parliament, and that was to crack down on multinational tax avoidance, to ensure that the Australian Taxation Office, as a bill from our government, would give them the powers to make sure that multinationals pay the tax they should pay in this country on the money they earn in this country. We voted for it. Bill Shorten and Chris Bowen voted against it. So if you want to know what Bill Shorten and Chris Bowen think about multinational tax avoiders, look at their voting record in the Parliament. When asked the question in this Parliament, they said no, they are against cracking down on multinational tax avoidance. Thanks.
Thank you, Treasurer.